So we're going to have a quick look at the platform updates as far as Skillable Studio is concerned for September 2023. So a couple of things here. There's in terms of the things I'm going to talk about, they are things that we've discussed in previous lab developer workshops. But it's just that we're trying to give you sneak peeks, early previews, and some of this stuff has been released now. So we just obviously want you to be aware of it. And we're going to give you, more training over the coming lab developer sessions. So for those again that are seasoned professionals, you won't find anything brand new in here. So we have mentioned the lab client over the recent few months. We brought to you screen mock-ups of what the lab client was going to look like. We've now actually released the new lab client. It's actually available for you to use within your labs today, if that's what you want to do. We appreciate there are some things that you would need to know really to get the best out of it, and that's why we're going to sort of do a lab developer workshop on the new lab client next month. I'll do a demonstration in a moment though, because if you do want to have a little look at it before we get to the lab developer workshop in October, you absolutely can do. I guess the one thing that's really important for me to stress around the new lab client itself is it is not enabled by default for any existing customers. I'm sure some of you are very familiar that as soon as you change something in the user interface, users get lost. Well, what am I meant to do here? This is different. It's not like it was last week. So no users are going to be impacted by this at all, because you've got to make that conscious decision to switch. And again, we'll explore those things in more detail in October. So as well as the new lab client, so the new look and feel, one of the things that we also wanted to do was make it easier for you to effectively bring your own organization's identity. If you wanted to customize the look and feel of the lab client and you wasn't comfortable with CSS and you wasn't comfortable with JavaScript, then it was going to be a problem. Okay, so we've actually made it much easier for customers to change the majority of the things they want to change. More than likely, 95% of the things that customers like to change are all in here, nice and easy to change. Okay, so we'll have a look at that in a second. Also just wanted to mention the script library. So we've talked about the script library a couple of times again. Okay, so at the moment it's effectively in internal beta. There's a couple of things that we've got to just sort out and organize for it. And we are planning to release during November. At the moment, it's early November rather than late November. But as with anything from a development point of view, timelines can change a little bit. So just wanted to sort of give you a little status update on that. However, I am going to show you a couple of things because actually some things have changed in your environment today because of the script library. Okay, so some of the work we've been doing to bring the script library has caused a couple of UI changes. And if you've not been in there, not seen them, I just wanted you to be aware of these changes that have actually been sort of brought into place. Again, the Lab Developer Workshop at the end of October will also cover the script library as well. Okay. So let's just have sort of a couple of little demos as far as the environment's concerned. So I'm just going to launch a lab here. So he says, just seems to have signed me out. Let me just try that again. Okay, so what that's just launching in the background. Okay, we have a bit of a new look and feel to the environment. So hopefully you can see, we've got logos at the top rather than the lab title. We've got slightly different menu. The burger menu's gone. We've got more iconography, so hopefully it's a little bit more intuitive. Things like the time remaining, the task progress, all those sort of things have been moved into this separate window down the bottom just to sort of try and clean up the environment a little bit. Okay, so that's the sort of changes around the environment. Now, one of the reasons we're not enabling this by default is a lot of customers when they actually create instructional content, they would actually create instructional content that would tell the user how to use the lab client. You might have instructions in here that say things like, go to the burger menu or go to the hamburger menu to save the lab if you want to pause the lab for a period of time, or things along those lines. So because you might have that content, then the last thing you want is the lab client to change, and then your instructions in your lab don't match the environment anymore. Okay, so that's why we haven't made those changes. But hopefully, most of the things are pretty straightforward in terms of just the sort of UI makeovers that we've actually sort of brought into play. Nicer menus, rounder corners. We go to things like the settings. The zoom function's gone and moved more to an industry standard of different text sizes. I guess the one thing that it'd be very different to be aware of from the point of view of the user choice, they now have a choice of sort of light, dark, and high contrast in terms of the themes. Okay, so just to sort of bear that in mind. So we don't have that big long list of color theme options that we had before. Okay. Obviously, this is me running this as a student. Okay. If you was running this from a lab developer's perspective, this settings menu is also where you would have the options to do things like install the integration services, as an example. Those sort of things will be added here. Edit the instructions. Those things would all be added in here. So the other thing I wanted to show you about this, then we'll see if there's any questions about this specifically, is the actual sort of themes part of it. Okay, so the way you would actually create a lab that's using a V2 client initially, okay, is by creating a theme. Okay, so just hopefully this is going to, I mean, that's the same problem we were just talking about in the chat, Chris. There we go. So if I go to the themes, okay, and I choose to create a theme, we've now got this option for specifying, like, do we want lab layout version 1, so the old client, or lab layout version 2, okay? So literally, if I just gave this a name, new theme, okay, and save that, and then just attach that theme to a lab profile, then that theme would actually cause it to boot under the new client, okay, with the default colors and all those sort of things. The key thing that's really important here, though, in terms of what we've done, is if I go back to the version 1 client, okay, effectively, if you want to customize, let's say you want to change the colors, or you want to put a different logo at the top, you'd be in here and you would effectively be working with, instruction CSS. So you'd have to go in here and start, header 1, and start actually writing the code that I want to put in my cascading style sheet to change the color for heading 1, for example, or whatever I might want to do. Okay. Whereas when I go to a version 2, we get this new styles page. Okay. And what this allows me to do is it gives me a real-time view of what the client's going to look like. And I can come in here and I can start changing the settings. So now I'm just putting color codes in here, or I could upload logos, those sort of things, if that's what I want to do. So if I didn't want the page header here, where it's skillable, to be black, I could absolutely come along to the primary page header background color, and I can change that. So I could go and change that to white. Okay, and change the color code, and you see that it dynamically updates that at that moment in time. Okay, so that's the sort of things that we could do here. And obviously we'll explore this, and we will do more things with this. Back to what it was. There we go. In addition to that, if you didn't want to get involved in all of those, we do give you some pre-built color schemes, which you could actually then take and then just go and tweak odd bits and pieces if that's what you want to do as well. Okay, and you'll notice you can actually set different color schemes for the light, dark, and high contrast. Okay, so that does also mean there's a couple of updates that need to get implemented for this. This is not quite got everything here at the moment. One of them is the logo upload. Okay, actually do custom logo. I think it is, yeah, custom logo. So there you go. If I do an upload, if I'm actually picking light, dark, and so on, I can actually upload different logos for light and a different logo for dark, because of course you might need to use different colored logos depending on the environment. Okay, so I just wanted to sort of highlight that for you. So we'll cover that in the lab developer workshop in October, and we'll pull all this apart and we'll have a play with it, and we'll even do a bit of CSS as well for things you can't do, just to give you that bit of experience. Before I talk about the script library, has anyone got any questions they'd like to ask about the new client, just as a quick introduction to it? Thanks for the comment, Chris. Appreciate that. Right, fantastic. Okay, so I'm just going to go back into a lab profile. Yeah, absolutely, Chris. Yeah, so the new client's required for the new settings. We haven't backfilled that capability for the old client. Okay, I'm not saying anything out of order here. As you can imagine, at some point we will want to depreciate the old client. Whether that's 12 months down the line or 18 months down the line, because we don't want to maintain two code bases. No one does. So you'd be giving lots and lots of notice about that, but we're certainly not going to add capability to the old client now. Great question. So the other thing I just wanted to just to sort of show you a little bit is, even though we're not publicly releasing the script library until November, okay, it's likely you're going to come across a couple of UI changes. Okay, so the account that I'm using here is enabled to use the script library. If I go to the admin page, you can see that I have the script library tile. None of you will have this. Okay, so just wanted to sort of highlight that. So you are going to see a couple of things that you won't see, but I just wanted to show you the core UI changes you might come across. So if I go into the instructions, for example, and I hit the activities button and go into edit an activity, okay, you will now see your activities will be framed in this change of UI. Okay, so the key thing that I want to highlight here is, whereas before when you come into your activities, you could just go into the script box and you could edit them. Okay, you can't do that now. Okay, so you've got to press the edit script button effectively to unlock it, so that you can then go in there and make changes. Okay, so just a little bit of a UI change from that point of view. If you create a brand new activity, okay, you will get this screen, other than you won't get the big square in the middle at the moment. So you'll just have a sort of a start from scratch option, which will just give you a blank box. Okay, and then when the script library gets enabled in November, you will of course then actually have the new button appearing here. And for those that are seasoned attendees, if you remember, I'm not sure if it was I think it was in August, but it would have been in August's Lab Developer Workshop. We also showed you that we're working on an additional button here, which is actually going to be using AI for script writing for you. So we will actually have a automated activity co-pilot, as we're calling it, which will allow you to get an AI engine to write the scripts for you. Okay. That's not November. Just want to clarify that, but that won't be long. Just for completeness, the other place that you will see that interface change over a little bit could be, if you see it on here, on automated activities. Sorry, life cycle actions. Sorry. So you get that sort of slight change UI here as well. Okay. So when you go through the labs, you will see these changes. And of course, when you're working in your environments, you will see those changes as well. So we just wanted to sort of be upfront and say, here's a little UI makeover. It all still works the same, but just so you're aware. And then you'll all be trained, or everyone that attends on the October Lab Developer Workshop, for when this feature is released in November. So any questions anybody would like to ask about either the lab client or just the sort of UI makeover for the script library at the moment? Cool. As always, you know, we share yourselves. We don't make these links public for where we keep our release notes, and you can look at stuff about our platform roadmap. So again, make a note of those, or if you when you get to the recording, you can sort of make a note of those, so you can see what we've released recently and also what we're currently working on. So just to obviously recap those.